Okay, so I'm filming this at the end of the video, but it's really the very beginning of the video. Here's what we have. I just wanted to include this as far as like our template goes, because I was trying to wrestle with how to do this. Here's the finished image, right? So this is the end of the piece, right? I just finished it, but you'll see this at the start of the video. And the scoop is that there's not a way for me to like really put this in a good way with all the colors being proper and stuff onto a little template. So what I'm basically going to do is you'll get a little rectangular piece like so, and you're going to get an image of this pattern. And what you're going to be doing is this is 13 beads across. So every single one of these rows is going to be 13 beads, and that sort of determines the length, right, as you just move your way through the project. So the width should be about this size. You can put this onto your piece, and what that's going to help do is it's going to give you a lined edge that you can follow so your piece doesn't bow up and down. So it's important to have something dead square to work on. And I might even make like a grid, like even a center line, so that you can try and keep your middle bead of the 13 on that center line. And that's going to help keep your piece dead and straight. Otherwise, you just start at one end and you just bead across to the other end until you finish the pattern. That will end your, that's going to end your actual, piece, really. So that's how we're going to go about working on this template. Work on your little rectangle, bead onto that. I'll probably have a center line for you and maybe a halfway point so that you can try and make your image be reflected on that center line point, because it's a mirror on the top, bottom, and side to side. It's totally a 4-quadrant mirrored image, right? So we're going to try and do that onto your little piece of paper. So that's how we're going to put this together as far as the template and the design goes. Otherwise, you're following this, counting beads, right? 13 pink, 13 pink, 13 pink. Then you're going to do, it'll be 4 pink and then 2 pink, a gold, 2 pink, and then 4 pink, right? So you're going to have to run it in sequences all the way down, and then you're going to do it almost like a little typewriter, okay? So that's how we're doing that. Okay, hey there everybody. So we're going to be working on our next beading project now, which is going to be a hair clip, like a beaded barrette for your hair. So we're doing something a little bit different with this design, with this pattern. Thus far, you've had sort of like an outline to follow in previous projects, right? Where you just sort of bead the outline and then you fill it in, edge it, the whole deal. This is going to look a little bit different because we're following a very geometric style pattern, one that would be typically done on a bead loom, right? So I'll show you kind of quickly. Here's, obviously it's not going to be this big. I've printed it larger for a reference so I can build this piece. We're going to be doing a different color scheme than this, but this is essentially what we're going to be making, right? Ours will also be edged. This one's done on a loom, so it's not edged. So we'll have that added bonus of having the nice edging around it, which this doesn't. But this is essentially what we're going to be working on, right? So you can see it's kind of reflective. There's a center to it, and then it kind of is reflected on both sides, right? So it is a perfectly balanced kind of symmetrical piece. So this we're going to be doing a little bit differently. I haven't started yet, so I just have my blank piece of felt. And what I'm going to be doing throughout this process is I know that this is going to be 13 beads wide, 13 beads across. So I'm going to start on one end here, and I'm going to do my 13 beads of like maybe 4, 4, and 5 at a time. Tack down 4, which is 8. Then I'll do the remaining 5 in the last shot. And then I'll just be going back and forth all the way across my piece until I get to the end of the pattern. I know it probably won't be longer than this. This is about 3.5, 4 inches. So basically, you can just follow me throughout this process where I don't have the finished piece yet, and I don't have even a template yet for it because it's just a picture I'm going off of. So once I finish this, I can then scan it out, and you can have the actual new template that'll be the correct size and everything like that to work on. So it'll be a little bit of a different process than we've done in the past, but stay tuned and I'll walk you throughout all the little steps to make this fly, and we can kind of see it unravel together. But what we're doing color-wise is, maybe I can show you down like this. We're doing a like sort of a cream white. This isn't a, it's not a matte white. It's like a kind of off-white, nice color, right? Then we've got a gold, and we've got this kind of light sort of pastel kind of corally pink, right? So it's going to be these three, this kind of off-white, gold, and pink, and the three of them go really nice together. So what's going to be nice for this project is that the gold is going to remain the gold for me to follow here, and then the pink is going to be the black, right? So this backfill is going to be that nice soft pink, and then the green bits that float through the center here for accent is going to be actually the white, and that white is then also going to be reflected in the edging. So it'll be edged in white, the white will be the little accents through the center, the gold will be the gold, and black will be pink, right? So that's what we're working on. I'm going to start pulling this together now, counting out my beads across, and we're going to be basically building this piece like a typewriter, where you literally look at what beads you have in this order. You can see the first line's all black, right? So it'll be all pink for me. So I'm going to do 4 pink, 5 pink, right? That's my 13 beads up. Just going to keep a consistent pattern so I don't ever mix myself up from, like, say, top to bottom or bottom to top, however you choose to work. Just keep that same pattern all the way across. So it'll be all pinks. And then my next one is going to be, you know, pink. And then all of a sudden I've got a gold in there, and then all pink on top. And then the next one over will be my third row. I'll have to do 3 golds in the middle and then pink. And then, you know, it'll be pink, gold, then a white dot, and then a couple more gold, and then pink, right? So you work in rows like this, like a little typewriter, all the way across, right? So you're not really free form outlining pieces the way we've done in the past, right? This is going to be a different kind of setup. So stay tuned. I'm going to get this thing started. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just quickly set up our needle, and then we can actually begin the beading. And I'll just show you that little beading technique again, just so you can see how that looks. So what I've done here is I'm taking a length of floss, okay? And what I kind of do is like a bit of wingspan of floss, which is, you know, you grab the container in one end, one hand is the end of the string in the other, and you just open up your arms all the way, right? And you end up with maybe around 3 feet, 3 and a bit feet of floss, okay? Or maybe a little more than that. And the idea now is that I've got that big long piece of floss, and what I need to do is thread it through my beading needle, okay? So all we're going to do is, the trick on this one is to get it the first time. So I know that seems like a ridiculous trick, but the idea is take your time and do it really carefully the first time, because if you try and try and try again, you'll fray the end of the floss, and then it really won't go through, and you have to retrim it and start over, okay? So stand the floss up so that it's up and down, because the eye of your needle obviously is oriented up and down as well. And then take your time and line it up well, slide it through just like that. There we go. So the idea now is that the way to set up a beading thread is that you're going to have a short end, okay, a floss that remains open, untied, right? That's maybe about half the length of your total piece. And then you've got this long end, right, which is double the length of the short side, you know, ish. And then what we're going to do here is we only tie off that long end, okay? And we do that with a surgeon's knot. So it basically is like making your regular old plain Jane knot, except what you do is you go to make your first kind of pass through to make a normal knot, but then you pass it through again, and then you pass it through a third time, giving you a sort of a triple knot, right? But what the idea is, it should end up with something like this, right? Looks like a regular knot about to happen, except I've just gone around 1, 2, 3 times, right? So now when I pull that tight, right, when I pull all the slack out of that, you end up with a triple knot that's exactly stacked on itself, right? Because otherwise tying one knot and then trying to get a double or triple to line up exactly with it is pretty much impossible. So this is the trick, how to get a triple or double on the same spot. And you'll be using this same tying technique for basically everything on your beading project. If you run out of thread, you stick it through the back of your piece, tie it off with a triple surgeon's knot, and then restart a new piece of thread from where you left off and continue on. So tying off pieces at the end, when you're done to finish off, you're going to be using surgeon's knots like this. It's a really good way to tie off your piece. So as it stands, we're ready to rock. We've got our short end and we've got a long end, right? The long end's tied, the short end's open. That's our safety net. So if you make a mistake, what you can do is actually pull your thread out, back your needle out, back your beads off, and pull that right apart, right? Fix your mistake, rethread your needle with the open end, and then pick back up where you left off, right? So that's your safety net. That's how you get out of mistakes, is with that short end that's open. So what we're going to do now is, you can see, for me, I've got something very easy like this to work off. It's just a square edge, right? So I'm going to start in the bottom corner here, and I'm going to bead my 13 beads up. That's the width of my barrette, is 13 beads. And then I'm just going to start working from that way across, and I'm going to follow my nice straight line at the bottom. So I'm always going to start off that bottom line. That way my piece will end up square. And then when it's done, obviously it'll just be still square wherever it finishes. I don't know how long it's going to be yet, right? So I haven't made this piece in real life. So once it's done, then I'll know how big it is, and then I can make an exact copy for you to follow. So otherwise, this is what I'm working on. So how we start our beading technique is, I'm starting from this very bottom corner, right? This is my square one. So I'm going to poke out with my needle right on, exactly on the corner of that piece. Okay, so you can see I've come out right on the corner of that, right? Exactly on the corner. So now what I'm going to do, I'm even going to get that a little bit better. I want it to be perfect. This first corner is going to be the thing that sets the whole tone for the piece. So I want it to be pretty well bang on. All right, so there we go. So now I can pull that slack through, and I'm now on top of my piece, right? My thread's out the top, which is what I want. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, in this case, pick up 4 beads, because the pattern I'm going to roll with is 4, 4, 5. That gives me 13 beads, and that's my width, right? So I've got 4 beads that I just scooped up, and they're pink ones, because it's all going to be black, which is pink for me, right? I'm doing the transfer of colors. So I can slide that all the way down, like so, and then I've got my few beads here, right? You can see them there. Now the idea is, you can steer those beads and decide where they want to go. If you're beading contours, of course you can make turns like that, but I want straight up and down lines. So I'm going to try and make sure my floss, look at that, is bang on here, and I know I'm going to get a perfectly straight line. And that's really important for us on this project, is keeping all of your lines dead square. You want them perfect. So take the time it takes to make them nice and square. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to come back down through the top, right at the end of my 4th bead, going down like this, right on the line. So I'm putting my needle right through the line. That way I'm staying directly on it. Pull all my slack through. And now you can see I've got 4 beads sitting there, perfectly on the line, perfectly straight. Now I'm almost done. What I need to do next is, I'm going to pop up. This is where it gets a little bit harder. This is the trickiest part of the beading maneuver here, is you want to pop up in between beads 1 and 2 on your line, right? So you can see here, I've come up on my line in between bead 1 and 2, right? Obviously the bottom one is the first bead, 2, 3, 4, right? Counting away. So I'm on my line in between bead 1 and 2 from the bottom, right? From underneath. Then I pull all my slack through. You can give it a little tug just to kind of straighten your pieces back out. And now what I'm going to do, being that I'm in between my first 2 beads, is I'm going to now shoot my needle through the remaining 3 beads. So now you can see my needle is actually going through the eye of those 3 remaining beads. Right, I came up between 1 and 2, and now I'm running my needle through 2, 3, and 4. Pull all the slack through. And then very importantly, I can't stress this enough, is the old thumb roll. You're going to take your thumb and put it on the beads you just put down, kind of in like a pinch like that. And then your other hand you can kind of use to draw out the slack. And you just roll the beads in your thumb quickly and give it a little tug. And what that's going to do is make your beading piece rock solid. Now those beads are nice and firmly placed down and all the slack is pulled out of that. All right, so there we are. And then you're just going to repeat. I'm going to do another 4, then I'm going to do 5. 4, 4, 5 is 13, and that's my total width of my piece. So I'm going to take another, I'll do this one quicker, right? My 4 beads on the needle, slide them all the way down, like so. I've got them there now in line. You can use your needle to tuck them up against the other beads so that you end up with a nice unbroken line, right? Put them exactly where you want them. Come down through the top, right at the end of my new 4, right on the line. Then I pull all my slack through. Now I've got 8 beads laying there in line, right, my 4 and 4. And then again, I'm going to pop up between the first and second bead that I just laid down. This takes a couple tries, especially when you're just getting new to it. But there it is, I've come up between bead, you can see, right, I'm thinking about these last 4 beads I put down as my 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm up between the first and second one, on my line, pull my slack through. Now I'm on top of my piece, right? My string's at the top. And then what I'm going to do, like I did before, is go through beads 2, 3, 4. Right, there it is. You can see I'm going forward in the direction that I'm beading, out the line, pull all that slack through. Of course, a little thumb roll, a little tug, get your beads nice and tight, otherwise you'll have a kind of sloppy, shaky kind of piece. So there we are, 8 beads in line, nice and square on that line, right? Just like that. And of course, the thing is, you know you've done it right because you'll end outside the end of your last bead, right? My string's hanging out here, ready for my next little sequence. And then of course I'm going to take 5 beads now. 5 beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all pink because my first row is completely just one color. And then this is going to make my 13, right? So now it's my 5, and it's the same exact process. I lay my beads down on the line, nice and square, pop my needle through, going down through the piece at the end of my fifth bead, pull my slack all the way through so it's there. And again, I'm going to come up between bead 1 and 2. Right, so it doesn't matter that I have 5 now. That doesn't matter at all. I'm still coming up between bead 1 and 2 of the 5. Pull my slack through. And now I'm going to shoot my needle through beads 2, 3, 4, and 5, right, the remaining. So it doesn't matter if I'm tacking 12 beads down. I come up between 1 and 2 and I shoot it through all the remaining ones, exiting the end of the last bead. Give that a little thumb roll, and there we have it. There's 13 beads laid down. That's the width of my hairbret now. I know that's how wide it's going to be. Now, an important thing that I'm going to show you here too, because this is going to be a technique you're going to use throughout the entire piece, so you might as well learn it on line 1, is that because I want to now stack another line right beside this one, and I don't want to draw the end of my line over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle back down through at the end of this last bead, pull all the slack through. So now I'm below my piece here, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up directly beside the last bead that I put down. All right, so I'm popping up exactly beside it, beside that last bead. Pull my slack through, give her a little tug. And now what's happening is I'm ready to start my new row directly beside this guy. And now I'm going to run down the line beside it, then move over and come up, move over, go down. And just like a typewriter, up, down, up, down, up, down, all the way across like this. And the trick is popping up beside like that so that you don't, you would drag the end of your line over with you if you just tried to turn like that, right? So pop up fresh, ready for a new line, and then you just start running down just like that. Except now, for the rest of the piece basically, except for the other end, which will be only pink, we're going to be incorporating other colors, right? So you've got to count out your sequence and look, okay, how many beads are in this row, put them in order, you know, 3 pinks, 1 gold. You know, you have to put them in order on your needle, right? Pick them up in order so that when you stitch them out, they're going to be in the run. So I'm going to do some more work on this so you can start to see a pattern forming, and then I'll kind of tune you in there, okay? Okay, so I just kind of cruised right along and I just did the piece, right? So now you can see it here in our 3 colors, the pink, white, and gold, right? This is what I based it off of. And then I just, based on the length of it, I did 1 repetition of the pattern, right? So you can see I came to kind of like this point, right? And I did that as our pattern, right? Stopping there. So that's what it is in these kind of pastel, more kind of feminine colors, I guess. And the idea now is that I'll give you a couple little pointers on this. And part of it is, as you're going to do this, you really need to be mindful of keeping straight lines, lining up the beads in such a way that if you are laying down 4, try and match them with the 4 that lay prior to it so that the beads are side by side as best as you can. Beads aren't perfectly the same size, so it's not exact, but you can get pretty close. A couple other little things too is, be really mindful, be patient as you pick out your colors and put them onto your needle. Make sure they're in the correct order. It's a pain to have to go back realizing you've had them flipped kind of backwards. So, starting somewhere here, like I would kind of put gold, gold, pink, pink. There's 4, right? I'd put those on. Then in the middle, right, there's a string of 5 there, which would be gold, white, gold, white, gold. Right, there's 5 in the middle. And then I would finish it off with pink, pink, gold, gold. Right, so I would do 4, 5, 4 because it really made sense kind of logically to do it that way, right? Pink, pink, gold, gold, a string of 5 kind of pattern in the middle, and then the mirror image, pink, pink, gold, gold on the other side, right? So make sure you're flipping your images because it's like a mirror. The top half and the bottom half are the same, and the same with the left and right side. So just pay attention as you work across your piece. But yeah, that's essentially it. Done, ready to be cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this out, right? Cut around it. You want to cut pretty close, but not so close that you accidentally snip a stitch. that is a major pain because then it frees up your string. The beads fall off and you have to do some major repair work. So get close, but not so close that you're cutting stitches. And if you need to, flip it over, look at where you're kind of going there and make sure you don't cut anything. Okay, so that's what I'm doing next. Then after that, we're going to be attaching hardware. We're going to be putting our backing, our leather backing on and gluing that together. And then finally, of course, we're going to do our edge work. All right, so that's the next things to come, okay?